Germany is introducing a face mask obligation. We are supposed to wear it in supermarkets, on public transport, and other places. And I'm going to talk about the contradictory statements that we heard in the past, and why you should wear the face mask. The flip-flopping can be well illustrated with one tweet, a nice one from an uncheckmarked citizen. He has the username Braves Bürgerlein, and he wrote the following. Our government and the virologist said in the past 2 weeks, masks rather hurt because of the deceptive security or sense of security. Masks don't help. Then masks don't hurt. Masks could help. Then masks do help. And then you must wear them. So this was the kind of stuff we have been hearing for the last weeks, and everybody had all around the world. And the reason for that is that the WHO gave kind of conflicting information. And I will go with you through that stuff in the second part of that video. But first, I want to discuss why you should wear the face mask. There is new scientific evidence out to explain how we infect ourselves and how we need to protect ourselves against it. So the face mask is an important step because we know already that the virus can be inhaled with aerosolized droplets. I mean that you speak or you cough or sneeze in front of somebody else, and that may be directly inhaled into your lungs, and there are waiting for it a number of ACE2 receptors, and those are binding on the virus, and the virus gets entry into your cells to replicate. Now, that had not been enough really to explain how this transmission worked so well, because SARS-1 was already able to do all of this. SARS-1 was also binding on the same receptor down here, and that one did not carry nearly as widely as the new one. The new virus can possibly make use of an enzyme that is very widely spread, furin. There is a new study from this week, from the 18th of April, suggesting that furin and ACE2 together are not just found in the lungs, but also in your entire respiratory system, in your neck, in your mouth, and in your nose. So this is possibly the reason why this new virus is so much more aggressive than the first SARS virus. So this new study was actually using real tissue from people's nose and mouth, or at least from the mucus on these surfaces, to conduct an immunohistochemistry as a kind of chromatography. It is a very common technology, but it was really only this week that it had been proved that those two proteins are actually combined in these areas. Before that, and only since the beginning of this month, there were genetic analysis of the individual cell, not your DNA, which is actually the same in every cell, but the RNA, the copies, the transcribed parts of your DNA that actually plays out in the diversified cells, how they are built up. Those were analyzed to identify in which tissue of your body ACE2 and furin and other proteins could be. It was really only at the beginning of this month that people understood that both of these proteins are possibly in the areas where you can actually get in touch with that virus. Why do I saying this? You do understand, and you did understand before that, that you can inhale the virus. Somebody sneezes, somebody talks, and in your close proximity, that may aerosolize, it is called. The virus may be carried on droplets, and you can inhale them right into your lungs, where we know already from the first SARS-1 infection that this can replicate in your lungs, right? And the difference between the second epidemic, the SARS-2 COVID-19 epidemic, and the first SARS epidemic is that the first SARS could not make use of furin. So people were looking for ACE2 receptors only in the lungs because that's where it was exposed to it. And it did not spread as fast. SARS-2 can now attack your mouth, your nose, and your throat, and move somehow into your lungs later on a later stage. That's probably going to be through multiplying already in these places and then being aerosolized with your breath. So you breath in, it touches the surface of your mucus, and then the virus is carried into your lungs. This is the difference between the second SARS epidemic and the first SARS outbreak in 2003, I think it was. What this means in practical terms is that the face mask does not only protect you against aerosolized particles, I mean droplets, but also against you licking your lips. And what the analysis had shown, I mean the ones that were based on the database, not the recent one from this week, but the ones on the database, what they have shown is that ACE2 receptors are already on your lips, and they're also on your tongue. So when you end up with moving your hand that you have touched on a dirty surface over your lips or on your tongue, you can already get infected. And a face mask can already stop you from touching your face in those places. I must say, though, that despite this, and I'm going through more details about what areas of your face are how dangerous, but I have always thought that there is a bit too much panic about touching your face. You will never control it entirely. We better have to understand what is dangerous and how dangerous it is. But if you touch the face here, and so forth, you are unlikely to actually end up with a virus in your eyes, in your nose, or in your mouth. If it's far off, then the only times you really get in touch with anything on the surface of your skin is when you tear up, when you cry like crazy, or when you sweat. So outside of that, it is actually pretty safe, and you can and should wash your face more often right now. It is impossible that you don't touch your face. Also, there are good reasons why we all touch our faces all the time, and this independent of our culture. It is more likely to move away pathogens from your face than rubbing them into your eyes. Okay, the whole point why you do touch your face is that evolution actually came up with that concept to protect you against diseases. So it would be stupid to actually change all your habits. There is a sensible limit to what people should change about their lives. I mean, at least in the medium to long run. Okay, for now we have to take extra precautions, but in the medium to long run we have to kind of return to a normal. This also includes hand washing, because it does destroy the skin on your hands. I actually do feel it on mine. This cannot be sustained. We have to understand better how the virus works. So don't be afraid of the virus getting into your ears or touching your face here and there. Let's try to understand the virus better. So as I've already said, this new study is real tissue analysis. It is not just based on the database, and suggests very strongly that the virus might replicate in your nose, your mouth, or your throat. However, this does not yet answer what places are how dangerous. For instance, the T cells, these are immune cells in your blood, would be attacked by this virus. It had been proven in a study published in Nature. T cells can be infected by COVID, by the COVID-19 virus. However, it does not replicate in it. And we do know that the virus can attack a lot of tissue here and there. But where does it actually replicate? This makes a big difference, because if it does not replicate enough, it is less likely to survive until the antiviral capacities of your tears and saliva will destroy it. That's a side note. We do understand how the tears kill off microbes, but without really understanding it, we also have found that there are some antiviral characteristics of tears as well. It's just not very well researched right now, I would say. It's unimportant also because the cavity of your eyes is connected to the cavity of your nose and mouth. So for a lot of viruses, it makes no difference, and that's why it isn't really investigated. This one would make it from your eyes right into your nose and your mouth. So how much effort would you put into finding out whether the virus can already replicate in your eyes when you know it's moving into your mouth fairly quickly? However, it has not been established whether your throat is actually replicating the virus strong enough to be aerosolized with your airflow and then being carried into your lungs. There had been a correspondence in the New England Journal of Medicine in which researchers describe how they were looking for the actual viral load, and they have found more viruses in your nose than in your throat. This indicates that the virus reproduces much better in your nose than in your throat. However, we don't know yet whether the neck and the mouth are the places where the virus replicates strongly enough to be carried with your airflow into your lungs. What is suspicious is that the sign of the disease is a dry cough, so it doesn't really rise to the level where your body produces a lot of mucus and stuff. So this shows only a little irritation in this area. So a potential explanation is that the virus has an easier time to multiply in your nose, and that protecting your nose and your eyes may be actually the only relevant place. Maybe, but this is really very speculative. I'm just, trying to kind of find the ways out of the entire gridlock, and so I'm focusing on what is more dangerous than what. It is not yet established that your mouth and throat are kind of safe. I'm far from saying this, okay? But this has to be investigated. I think that would be interesting. I also feel that now with this studies into what tissue does carry both the furin enzyme and the ACE2 receptor, you can create individual cell cultures to test medication better. I also feel that we might become better at identifying the stages of the disease. Maybe we can stop it or catch it at an early stage and treat it with a replication inhibitor like remdesivir, for example. Also, when we do know in what tissue the virus does replicate, we may also find ways to saturate the receptor with other chemicals. So maybe there will someday be a nose spray or whatever to protect us when we go out for dinner, for a restaurant and so on. I mean, this is obviously far in the future, very speculative, but I hope there are more investigations into the different types of tissues that we kind of understand how this can be stopped and to how we can come back to normal. Okay, so let's go through the WHO confusion. Dr. Michael J. Ryan said first that the masks don't protect the variabilism.
WHO recommends that the wearing of a mask by a member of the public is to prevent that individual giving the disease to somebody else. We don't generally recommend the wearing of masks in public by otherwise well individuals.
So the idea was somehow that the virus and the droplets carrying the virus only knows one direction. You kind of speak, and the fabric and the mesh is catching the droplets coming from one side, but for no reason whatsoever, the droplets coming inwards would just pass through. That was a very common narrative for months now, and it makes absolutely no sense. What shocked me was how many people repeated that, and I personally think that was to secure the resources at first. There was a lady attending the same meeting, Dr. Maria van Kerkhove, who I think said it straight up.
The masks that we recommend are for people who are at home and who are sick, and for those individuals who are caring for those people who are home that are sick. But as Mike has said, it's important that our frontline workers, who we recommend standard and droplet precautions, have adequate use of PPE, and so that we make sure that we prioritize the use of masks for those who need it most.
Of course, if you start out with a lie, you cannot walk that back. And now everybody believes that somehow masks only catch the droplets from one direction, and you have all these people claiming, there's no self-interest involved, you only do it for other people. So that's discouraging everybody, and they still just have to keep that narrative up to keep face. So they are keeping up that narrative just to keep face, and I think that should not be a main concern. I do understand that healthcare professionals need far more protection. We don't know yet if the viral load is actually connected with the gravity of the disease. In most cases, it isn't. I found a study about influenza and common cold viruses that showed that influenza B does have a correlation between the severity of the disease and the exposure a patient has to the virus, coming from outside. And this might be the case with COVID-19. I have noticed that a lot of healthcare professionals have caught the disease, and very severely so. This is also, I think, the only valid explanation why they are still somehow discouraging people from wearing the mask, and I kind of wanted to caution a bit. If you do have it, you should still stay at home as much as you can and isolate yourself. You should not walk around with a mask all day long. You should change the mask fairly regularly, and you should iron it after you've worn it. That means, exposure to heat. So iron it, or, put it into the microwave. That's another way. You can also, of course, wash it, because the soap will break it up as well. So keep it clean. If you have it and you are constantly breathing into the mask, you have the pathogen right concentrated in front of you, and of course it is then also with inhaling, swirling around and moving back into your lungs. So this is what you should be careful about. Just use the mask only when you mingle with people, and don't mingle too much with people right now. This is the only concern about masks that I can share, but I've yet to hear from anybody, quite frankly, to voice this concern. I was just thinking really hard why they are telling us that masks don't work and that it's only protecting anybody else but not you. Why is this discouragement going on all the time? It makes little sense, and I was really searching hard to find something. Okay, so this is my precaution about the face mask. If you have time to go out for a walk, and your quarantine regulation in your country, in your place, allows you to have a walk outside, you should not wear the face mask, of course. You should breathe freely. The other concern that was voiced by the healthcare professionals was one you have all heard, and Mr. Michael J. Ryan of the WHO was voicing it at the conference. So, Mr. Ryan, take it away.
There is no specific evidence to suggest that the wearing of masks by the mass population has any particular benefit. In fact, there is some evidence to suggest the opposite in the misuse or wearing a mask properly, or fitting it properly, or taking it off, and all the other risks that are otherwise associated with that.
So the explanation is this patronizing: we can't handle the masks, we are kind of too dumb to put them off our faces and so forth. Of course, this makes little sense. All your clothes are exposed to people sneezing on it and coughing and so forth. There's no reason why your mask should be more dangerous than anything else. You don't have to use singes or anything just to remove it from your face. And you also don't have to burn it. There were a lot of double extra precautions against the mask for months now. Really stupid stuff like there's no 100% protection against the virus. Really stupid stuff. There is never a 100% protection against anything. This is a very stupid argument. You always think about risk reduction, you can never ever exclude the possibility of a negative event. If you drive according to the speed limits, you don't assume that this makes you 100% safe, that keeps you 100% safe from any car accidents. You don't just throw your car insurance out of the door only because you keep the speed limits, and also you fasten your seatbelt and so forth. You do that because you reduce your risk. You can never be 100% sure. But to warn people of using the seatbelt because it may suddenly lead them to driving through the red traffic light crossroads is stupid. All these warnings and cautioning and so forth had been really over the top over the past months, and now they have to go all reverse. And for me, it is not quite clear why they have all said the same thing. We are now talking really intelligent people, and strange enough, this is not an ideology. There was also the remark that you should clean the face mask in hot water. There was 60 degrees Celsius, that's 140 Fahrenheit, advices all along, and it's ludicrous. I mean, you can, and I have a face mask that I can throw into the laundry and heat it up like crazy, and I possibly do that. It's okay, and I don't mind. But you are washing with soap. So what I'm saying is that the face mask in your laundry is exposed to your detergent full of soap. I mean, there's a lot of soap in it. That's breaking up the fatty membrane of the virus. There's absolutely no need to heat it up when it's already exposed to so much soap. You can, it's a choice, but you don't have to. You also don't have to burn it. There were also a lot of precautions against having a mask of your own anyway. Everybody just wanted one-off masks and throw them away every time they were worn. It made no sense at all. You don't have to burn everything all the time only to get rid of viruses. And because the WHO and the government officials all over the world were unable to say, forget our resource crapping lies and just sew your own goddamn masks, we just were waiting around forever. And the virus was spreading because of these idiots. Your normal face mask will do. If you have special underlying diseases, you can, or if you are very old, for example, you can also have a pouch in your face mask. I have sewed one into mine, and add some paper, how's it called? Cellulosis. And then the English word for the chemical. The material paper is soaking up moisture very effectively. It's binding. It's binding water, and you can just move a sheet of paper. Not a glossy magazine paper, but a shopping bag paper, for example, into this pouch. And that will catch a lot of droplets, and you can just throw that away. You don't have to throw the entire mask away. As I said, you should change the masks a couple of times during the day. Maybe you use 2 or 3. This is a very sophisticated one, but you can. I mean, there are hundreds of guidelines out there right now, and you just need a t-shirt or whatever. You can sew a number of cloths on top of each other to have it a bit thicker, because the thicker the fabric is, the more droplets can be caught. Obviously, that's very easy. All the doctors and healthcare professionals you see on TV and on YouTube are talking a good game about the different licenses, and that they need special masks, and that they make it difficult to breathe, and blah blah blah. This was far too much fuss. Your surgical mask is not that sophisticated. As I said, a number of layers of t-shirt or whatever above each other does the trick. And this was really just to grab the resources. It is rather the other way around. The mass-produced masks for medical use, they are very cheap, because the thing is, the doctor cannot trust the nurse, the cleaner, and so forth to be careful with their individual mask, and they have to dispose of their masks all the time. The same with their gloves and so forth. You as a citizen can protect your own property. So if you have a face mask, if you have gloves and so on, you can make sure that nobody sneezes on them. Okay, you don't rely on cleaners and nurses and so forth. Doctors are different. So the one-off gloves and face masks and so on, they should be reserved to them, but everybody else should have something else. Also, if you have gloves, it does not help if they are not cleaned in between and you're just touching the dirty surfaces and then moving the gloves around your face. The gloves are just something that you wear in between. And I also want to remind you that the virus does not survive well on rough materials like fabric. So if you choose gloves, you don't need rubber gloves. It's actually smarter to have fabric gloves. The virus will go somewhere in the pores. It will be buried very quickly. So when you're out shopping and you touch all these different goods that you want to buy, you actually contact much less if you have a fabric glove, okay? And the virus will move into the different holes and will be destroyed with the roughness of the surface of it. If you choose rubber gloves, you don't have the same level of protection. You actually could just use your bare hands. That's my opinion, okay? I hope this helped a bit, and I'll see you.